The Charlotte Hornets have had their fair share of bad press lately, but there's quietly been an unsung hero on their squad that's showcased a lot of upside, and he might just be exactly what they needed. Mark Williams, drafted 15th overall in the 2022 NBA draft, didn't get a ton of playing time during his rookie season, but when he was on the floor, it was hard not to notice just how good he already is. That is, of course, unless you're his teammate Kai Jones. You might not have realized it, but Mark Williams was one of the best rim protecting rookies in the entire league last season. He stacks up really highly against the other guys in his draft class as far as defense at the rim goes. The 21-year-old center out of Duke isn't just a defensive monster in the paint. He's also really mobile for a 7-footer, making for a unique defensive presence that stands out both in the stat sheet and when he's on the floor. Mark Williams already looks like the kind of player who can roam all over the paint and inside the arc, and not just clean up for the mistakes that his teammates might make, but also create a lot of defensive plays out of them. He's not relegated to camping out in one specific spot on the defensive end because his size and mobility make him capable of covering more ground than your average center. Let's look at this play. The Nuggets are going to run this empty corner pick and roll with Bruce Brown rejecting the Jokic screen, and Williams is in charge of protecting the drive. He's going to make this soft hedge to contain Brown, and it prompts Brown to get the ball to MPJ up top. Now, Williams recognizes that Jokic is going to post up if MPJ doesn't end up shooting it, and Williams is already in position by the time MPJ gets the ball. He uses the fact that Jokic was attempting to post up to get himself some strong positioning for the rebound, and then he just contains Jokic in the paint, ultimately getting the follow-up block and then possession of the ball. On this play, he starts out as the drop defender in the pick and roll. His presence is going to stop Franz from advancing any further towards the basket, and he knows Dennis Smith Jr. is going to be fading out to the corner to guard his man, so he needs to be on Mo Wagner. But once he notices that Franz is going to be able to pivot by Hayward, he comes over from the weak side and he swats the ball away. Now on this possession, look at where he starts out. He's towards the top of the key, and the Rockets run this play where Green comes to get the ball while Tate makes this 45 cut towards the paint. McDaniels stays with Tate, but he gets a little bit lost in the footwork, but it ultimately doesn't even matter because Williams relocates from up top to annihilate the ball and force the Rockets to reset. Here, Jalen Smith is going to come up to screen for McConnell, and Williams starts to come up towards the elbow to protect the pick and roll, but it triggers McConnell to go ahead and drive to the basket since there's not as much of a paint presence down there anymore. Now Williams is angled towards the left side of the floor trying to recover, and McConnell actually does a good job of jumping to the right side of the basket for the finish to try and get by Williams, but it doesn't even matter because Williams makes a quick flip to recover and block the shot off the backboard. It's not very difficult to see how having a guy like this is incredibly valuable from a team perspective. It isn't just the fact that he's a reliable interior defender. Yes, that is important and it's certainly part of the equation, but it's also the fact that his defensive ability in the paint and down low allows Charlotte's defense to play a certain way and take a few more risks. Here's how teams are shooting against Charlotte, both with Williams on and Williams off. As you can see, there's not a huge difference in efficiency at the rim when he's on the floor versus off, but the important thing to notice is the fact that teams shoot considerably worse from 3 and from mid-range when he's on the floor versus when he's off. Now, Mark Williams is a 7-foot center. What do mid-range efficiency and 3-point efficiency have to do with him? A guy who's spending most of his time roaming around in the paint, guarding pick and rolls, and really just staying inside the arc and down low for the most part. When you have a player that's as strong of a roamer and presence down low like Williams, the Hornets are able to play a lot more aggressively on the wings and inside the 3-point line because they know that they have Williams down low backing them up in case they make a mistake or their man gets by him. They can gamble by trying to fight over a screen or setting a hedge on a pick and roll because they have somebody that can play cleanup, and that somebody is a mobile 7-footer with a 7'6" wingspan. This play showcases that really well. McDaniels is going to overplay the screen to make sure that Vincent doesn't get an open look up top, and Gabe Vincent's going to reject it. They can live with this because Williams is going to be there to step in front of Vincent and prevent the drive. Smith Jr. slides over and provides the help onto Bam, but it leaves Oladipo open on the wing. Bam getting it to him triggers LaMelo to rotate, and Smith Jr. rotates to the corner, and the possession ultimately culminates into a mid-range pull-up. All of this defense on this possession was possible in the first place because the presence of Williams made it difficult for Miami to really create any dribble penetration, and as a consequence, they couldn't create much of an advantage. On this possession, there's only 12 seconds on the shot clock, and Oladipo gets the screen and McDaniels tries to fight over it with Williams in drop coverage. But Oladipo is immediately in a position where he has to decide whether to drive on Williams, get a shot in the mid-range, or kick it out. Williams makes sure that Oladipo doesn't get any ideas about shooting on him, so he ends up kicking it out, and the rotation comes to contest the shot from beyond the arc as the clock expires. Rob Williams is going to get the ball in the mid-post, while Grant comes off of this flare screen from Hauser. Washington is going to close out pretty aggressively on Grant, but they can afford to do that because even if Grant gets by, Mark Williams is going to come from the weak side and disrupt the shot attempt, and the Hornets get the rebound to get possession. Green and Şengün are going to run this pick and roll, and Mark Williams is hanging out a little bit towards the nail. Green comes off the screen, and the first thing that he's going to see is Williams waiting for him in the paint if he decides to drive. And Jalen Green is a great driver and a great slasher, so this is an immediate deterrence to him. So instead of driving, he's going to stop and pick up his dribble to go up for a shot, and the rest of the defense is going to collapse in on him at the elbows to ultimately help force the miss. Now, I do have to point out that Mark Williams isn't the only reason for Charlotte's improved defensive success towards the end of last season. They also had Dennis Smith Jr. on the roster, and I'm not sure how many people still don't realize this, but Dennis Smith Jr. was one of the best perimeter defenders in the entire league last season. Both him and Mark Williams made for a really strong defensive duo. In the 702 possessions where Mark Williams and Dennis Smith were sharing the floor together, they allowed only 106 points per possession, which ranks in the 98th percentile, and it would also make them the 16th best defensive two-man lineup in the entire NBA last year. The Hornets ended up losing Dennis Smith Jr. to the Nets in free agency, so now it's going to be up to Mark Williams to take on a little bit more responsibility, and we're going to get to see a lot more of what he's capable of. Mark Williams is one of those free safety cleanup kinds of guys. He's the type of big man that can potentially anchor your entire defense. And honestly, I think if you're an NBA team, that kind of player is one of the most valuable things that you can have in terms of roster construction. It's really hard to win a meaningful number of games if you don't have a guy who can hold down your defense like that. The Hornets have all sorts of issues right now and all sorts of drama that they have to navigate, but Mark Williams is definitely a bright spot during an otherwise probably pretty unfortunate time to be a Hornets fan. Steve Clifford has done a lot of good in extracting the best out of Mark Williams so far, so I really can't wait to see what next year holds for him. I'm going to be keeping an eye on him, and you should too. So what do you guys expect from Mark Williams this upcoming season? Be sure to let me know in the comments below. If you guys are new to the channel and you enjoyed this video and you want to see more stuff like this, be sure to subscribe and leave a like while you're here. You'll never miss another video. I'm posting stuff like this all the time. I know this was on a little bit of a more obscure player, but it's the off season, so you know, I gotta make what I can. Anyways, as always, thank you so much to my patrons for helping support me and make these videos possible. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.